Well, a day after chaos breaks out in Baltimore, the city tries to recover. Good evening. This is CTV News for Tuesday, April the 28th. I'm Sonia Srivastava.
And I'm Patricia Malone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, parts of Baltimore remain on lockdown as the governor declares a state of emergency. It all followed yesterday's rioting and looting after the funeral of Freddie Gray. This afternoon, much of the attention was focused on cleaning up the battered city and justice for the man who lost his life while in police custody.
This is about human rights. The rights, the value of life.
Protesters say they're looking for accountability in the death of Freddie Gray, the man who lost his life after suffering a spinal injury while in Baltimore police custody. They want to be distinguished from the small percentage who looted and burned parts of the city yesterday after Gray's funeral.
Now, tensions are running high right now at this intersection of Pennsylvania and North Avenues, where behind me you see a police barricade. It's the same site where many protests and rioting took place last night.
This is frustration. The best way to describe it is crying at a funeral. No one thinks that crying at a funeral will bring back their loved one, but it has to get out of you because you have so much tension, so much anger, so much hurt. And so with these young people and not so young people out here saying they have this tension, this anger, and this hurt, this is much larger than Freddie Gray.
No justice, no peace. Jail to the police.
Shortly after yesterday's funeral, things got out of control when a nearby high school let out.
They closed down schools early, and then police arrived at Mondawmin Mall and Station, which is a transit hub. There are no yellow school buses that take children to school. They all catch mass transit to get to school and back. So they were let out early. They arrived where they normally go to go home, and the buses and the metro were shut down, and they couldn't go anywhere. They were physically stranded.
In all, there were 200 arrests, 144 vehicle fires, and 15 structural fires, including the CVS store, which was torched and completely gutted on the inside. Today it remains unboarded, with people still roaming around inside the condemned store. Many others were out trying to help clean up ravaged sites in the city, brooms and trash bags in hand.
We did a lot of cleaning up over and by Fulton, and it went pretty well. A lot of people came out to help.
Other areas of the city were also torched or looted, including this Rite Aid on Martin Luther King Boulevard.
A lot of the students at the School of Social Work saw a need. We questioned, what do we do now? And the immediate need was cleanup. So we wanted to get to some areas that maybe didn't make the mainstream media and just hit the ground running and clean up.
Last night's Orioles game had to be canceled after nearby businesses were vandalized. This nurse, who works at a hospital near the stadium, became highly emotional about the turmoil in her city.
Just coming in and seeing the National Guard and the state police at some place you frequent every day, it's just surreal.
And while the protests and increased police presence continue in Baltimore, so far things remain relatively peaceful on the same streets that were ravaged yesterday.
Meanwhile, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan has signed an executive order declaring a state of emergency in Baltimore, activating the National Guard. Supplies are being sent to areas throughout the city, including 20,000 meals and 1,000 bottles of water, which will be provided to law enforcement and first responders. Now, Prince George's police deployed 30 to 35 officers to Baltimore to help with the riots. Hogan says that they're working to help local businesses recover.
Well, the immediate need is to restore calm and peace to the city, make people feel safe. I think we're already well on our way to getting that accomplished. There are no more fires burning. There are no more looting going on. You see a tremendous presence on the streets now, which we didn't see yesterday. There's also issues like emergency housing, which we're providing from both Department of Human Resources and the Housing Agency. There's financial assistance. We've activated 2,000 volunteers through the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives from around the state.
The thousands of demonstrators who did it the right way, I think, have been lost in the discussion. The overwhelming majority of the community in Baltimore, I think, have handled this appropriately, expressing real concern and outrage over the possibility that our laws were not applied evenly in the case of Mr. Gray.
Now, states including New Jersey and Pennsylvania, as well as the District of Columbia, have sent more than 300 law enforcement officers to contain that situation.
Well, as parts of Baltimore became engulfed in flames, Prince George's Fire Department assisted local rescue workers and remain on the scene now. At around 2 a.m., the same time Baltimore was fighting another 3-alarm fire, the Maryland Emergency Management Agency asked PGCTV for help. So far, crews have responded to 15 calls, including some building fires.
We were actually able to muster up 6 engine companies, 2 ladder trucks, and 2 command officers. They all met at the Laurel Station, and at about 2:30, 3 o'clock this morning, they went as a caravan up to the city of Baltimore.
Now, the fire department chose to deploy staff and trucks from stations that had extra so that there was no shortage in the county. Meantime, counties throughout Maryland joined the Baltimore City Schools suspending activities due to last night's riots. Prince George's, Anne Arundel, Baltimore, and Hartford counties canceled or postponed all field trips and other events in the area today. Now, in Anne Arundel, this affected about 40 field trips planned through Sunday. Baltimore County sent an alert to staff yesterday afternoon saying activities in the city are suspended through this week and possibly longer. Now, other closures include the federal government offices in Baltimore, Maryland state government offices in the city, and the Baltimore City District and Circuit Court. The Orioles and White Sox game that was scheduled for tonight at Camden Yards has also been postponed.
Well, all eyes were on the Supreme Court today, where justices are in the process of making a major decision that could impact same-sex couples. Currently, 36 states and the District of Columbia allow them to marry. But advocates want more, and we're among those rallying for justices to give them those rights nationwide. Denise Douglas shows us what's going on outside of the Supreme Court.
It is clearly a very packed and emotional scene here at the Supreme Court. Let me show you kind of what's going on down here. Opponents of gay marriage preaching passionately against the issue. Right beside them as well are people in favor of it with signs and so forth, making their voices heard. Gay marriage is center stage here at the Supreme Court as justices inside hearing arguments on this topic. At issues whether the Constitution allows a right for people of the same sex to marry. There are 14 states that still ban the practice. Justices will be hearing cases from 4 of those states, Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee, on the issue. This is a landmark case because a decision here will determine whether same-sex marriage will be legal nationwide. Take a listen to what some folks out here had to say about this.
It's important because it would allow everyone, not just me, because I live in the District of Columbia, so I have legal same-sex marriage rights, but every American, regardless of their sexual orientation or sexual identity, will be able to enjoy one of the most precious institutes in our society, is the right to marriage.
Marriage is a religious institution ordained by God, and it needs to be done God's way. I think the government needs to stay out of it and let the church, who's the one, the pastors and clergy are the ones who are supposed to be marrying, couples, and so we're out here to, preaching love for God's law, love for God's ways, and homosexuality is a hate crime.
I just believe that's completely untrue. I'm a Christian, and I think that God believes in love.
President Barack Obama is the first sitting president to support gay marriage. His administration will argue in favor of it during the hearings today. In terms of a final ruling, justices are expected to make their decision by June. I'm Denise Douglas, CTV News.
And the first state to allow gay and lesbian couples to marry was Massachusetts in 2004. And you are watching CTV News. I'm Patricia Vallone.
And I'm Sonia Shervas.